friends. I'm your host, Erin Port, and welcome to the Simple Purposeful Living podcast. Life can be overwhelming and busy, so once a week, I invite you to join me, and together we will make simple tweaks to uncomplicate the hard parts of our life so we can spend more time doing what we love. Katy Wells is the Maximized Minimalist, a mom, wife, podcaster, and now author of her brand new book, Making Home Your Happy Place. Her podcast has helped women around the world transform their homes and lives. What I love about Katy is that she doesn't just help you declutter your countertops, she helps you get to the root of why the clutter keeps coming back in the first place. You know that dandelion in your yard? If you just pluck off the top, it pops right back up. And the same is true for clutter. So if you're stuck in that cycle of decluttering the same spaces over and over again, and you want to escape your home more than you want to be there, listen in. Katy's joining us today to share how to finally break free from the clutter cycle and create a home that truly feels like your happy place. Welcome to the show, Katy.
My heart is feeling warm. I'm so happy to be here. I think we're just going to have so much goodness come from this. So thanks for having me.
Well, I'm so excited. For those of my listeners who are meeting you for the first time, can you share a little bit about yourself and how you became passionate about helping women declutter and make home their happy place?
Yeah, so my passion for this work came from my own personal journey through decluttering and desperation, to be honest, and really hitting my rock bottom. And I remember years ago, this one memory always stands out to me, and that was I had this expectation of the mom I thought I'd be, and I was so far from it. And I was a no mom. Every time my little guy, who was 2 at the time, my oldest was 2, and my youngest was 1, asked me, like, Mom, can you read extra bedtime stories? Or Mom, can you, it was like, even before he finished asking the question, can you play? I was automatically saying no. And I remember one time, it was like the end of the day, I told him, no, I can't play because I have dishes to do. I have chores to do. I have to organize. I was like feeling so burdened and pulled away by my home. He asked, can we do trains just for a few minutes before bed? And I said no. And Aaron, I stood in his room and just looked at him and cried because he was just, you remember the looks on their faces. It's like, I'm just disappointing myself. I'm not the yes mom I thought I'd be. And it's not because I didn't want to play. It's because I was so exhausted from managing our home. I had nothing left to give. I tried it all, the bins, the marathon purges, and by Wednesday it fell apart. And I thought, something's wrong with me. I'm the only one who struggles with clutter. Like, clearly I need better systems. I need better bins. Like, what is it? What's it going to take? And so my background from a career perspective is in holistic wellness. My husband, Andrew, is a chiropractor by trade. So this is at a time where we had our clinics, and I saw this looking at the body as a whole and getting to the root of it. And that philosophy worked so well. And I mean, so many miracle stories in our office of people healing from the inside out. And I thought, if this can work for human bodies and people, maybe I should look at my home the same way and start looking for the root causes, because clutter is a symptom. And I think so many of the methods out there, they're not bad, but they just look at it as a surface level. If checklists worked, I would have been clutter-free after I downloaded my first checklist. Instead, I had 18 checklists and PDFs and what to do. And it's for a lot of us, it's deeper than that, right? So instead of approaching the clutter with how do I organizing it, or like, does this spark joy? I started asking better questions, right? Better questions tend to get better answers. And it was like, why am I holding on to this? Instead of going to buy more bins for the umpteenth time, I looked at, what's happening between my ears? How am I feeling when I hold this? What's coming up for me? What beliefs and emotions and habits too, from a very practical perspective, are making this harder than it needs to be? And that changed everything. Pairing that kind of inner work, reflection, and working on that, and combined with really just super simple, tiny tweaks, right?
Yeah.
It helped move the needle for the first time. And even just within a few months, my home wasn't perfect. Yes, I had more to do, but I started saying yes more. I started letting that ease, which started with seconds saved each day, turned into minutes, minutes turned into more minutes. And I was happier. I felt less burdened. I was less stressed. And that yes, I started becoming a yes mom. And I'm telling you what, there's so much value way beyond why we think we want a simplified home just so it looks good or it's easier to manage. When your kiddo, when he asked me, hey, can you play trains? And I said yes without a second thought, I was like, this can work for other people too. And it was like the birth of holistic decluttering, which is very aligned with your messaging and really my whole philosophy.
Okay, so you talk about this idea of getting to the root cause, and you talk about it in your book. You kind of lay it all out. But for the listener who's kind of hesitant and thinking, how does this work? What did you
Yeah.
do to get to the root cause? Because I do say awareness is your superpower. So, how can the woman listening start to identify her own root problem?
I think it's important to understand how multifaceted and nuanced and layered this is. It looks different for everyone, but I'll give you a couple different examples of mine. And I've worked with a lot of women as you have. So very common patterns. Number one, we were talking about this before we hit record, but I mean, look at how we are so consumed and influenced by consumption, right? I was decluttering with one hand and buying every day with the other hand, scrolling. And I particularly did have a shopping problem. Not that everyone who has clutter does, but I think, I didn't want to address that. And so once I did, that certainly helped from a root cause perspective. Again, like you can declutter all day long, but if you are, have some habits that are bringing too much in, that's only going to hinder your progress. And then I think too, it's really naming what's happening between your ears and challenging. So naming, so I one of my methods I talk about in the book is called the 4S method. It's rooted in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's just a really beautiful framework to use when but what if I need this in the future? Will this cost money? What if I decide 10 years from now I want to start doing cross stitch and I've gotten rid of all this cross stitch stuff? Like, what do I do? Right. And then oftentimes we don't challenge that. We just say, well, I guess I'll walk away and deal with this another day. So it's 4S is an acronym, and the first S stands for spot it. So you're spotting the thought. That might look different, the thought you have compared to the one I have, but that's okay. You're spotting the thought. Again, you have to flash a light and bring that to light. What's going on? Then we can shift it. Soften it, excuse me, soften it. So soften it is just neutralizing that thought. Because oftentimes we meet that thought with judgment, with frustration, with forget it, I'll just do this another time. And we know how that story ends. But you can go, of course I feel this way. This is what I absorbed growing up. This is part of my stuff story. I didn't consciously choose this messaging. It's wired into my biology. As humans, we don't like loss aversion. We don't like the feeling of losing, which decluttering can literally feel unsafe to our nervous systems. So just softening that. Of course, I feel this way. This is normal. I'm not a failure for feeling this way. And I can still do something else. The third one is shift it. Shift the neutral thought into a more positive one. I have confidence that if I decide to cross stitch 20 years from now, that I will be able to be resourceful. I can borrow from a friend. I can ask if or when that should happen, and I'll be okay. And I can be safe in letting go. And then the fourth S is step forward. So, what's the next step? I think people think like, what's the strategy that's not going to make me feel anything, not going to make me feel any fear or guilt, or like, I don't want to feel that anymore. But that's not what this is about. This is about meeting those really common human biological responses to our stuff because we assign meaning to stuff. We're human. We're not AI, thank goodness, not yet. And it's what to do. Where do we go from there? And walking through this really beautiful framework, I see it time and time again, is just so powerful. And it helps us rewrite new programming, neuroplasticity. If you're a brain nerd like me, you're literally creating new beliefs. And so for that step forward, oftentimes it is like, okay, I'm going to add this to my donation bin. Or, you know what, I'm going to reach out to a mom on Facebook Market and just post this for free in my local buy nothing. Because I'm sure someone on there would love some cross stitch supplies. I'm just using that as an example. But it's just, no matter what thought comes up, I find the 4S is just so universal and can really meet you where you are.
Yes, it's funny because my therapist said we can't outthink our emotions. Like they just happen,
Yes.
right? It's part of our reptilian brain. So it happens faster than we can even say, like, I can't, I don't want to think that, right? And as you say, the softening piece of we start to make ourselves feel guilty, right? I shouldn't be feeling this way. I shouldn't, right? All the things. And so that's so helpful at being able to do those four steps to be able to move through the emotion, soften what you're going to say about it, and then step forward. That's so, so good. Okay, you talked a little bit about a stuff story. And in your book, this was a huge aha for me. because you say we all have a stuff story.
Yeah.
What does that mean, and how does that how does that go with clutter in our homes?
Yeah, I think this is helpful for everyone to understand, especially if you have a partner or kids, where it's like you can look at the same object and you're like, this is clutter. And they're like, but no. And now you're like, what? Like, what's wrong? I don't get it. We all have different stuff stories. And this is really the invisible script that shapes how you relate to stuff. I used to say how you relate to your belongings, but like your stuff story also impacts the stuff you buy, what you keep, what you struggle to let go of, what you aspire to buy in the future. And oftentimes, again, it's not like, oh, I want to think this way. It's like it becomes this old programming. It might not be forefront, right, in our conscious, but it's 50 tabs back in the back of our brain and it's running the show. And it often comes from kind of three places. The first is like how you grew up. Maybe your parents were those that saved everything. My grandparents and a lot of ours have. So I'm 38. My grandfather lived till he was 100. Didn't even know what the word declutter meant, never let go of anything in his life because he grew up in a time when frugality wasn't just like a trend and like a value, it was like a means to live, right? And so this gets passed down, just like we can pass down all kinds of things to our family members. It's like generational, right? So my mom thought, well, we don't get rid of anything. Bread ties, like all the things we kept expired. Well, what if I want this expired can of something someday? Like everything. And I absorbed that too. So I was like, well, I guess we don't get rid of anything. Whatever was modeled for you can become your definition of norm. Some of us swing the other way. Doesn't mean we're just always going to repeat that. But I bring that up because of that nuance. It matters. And it's not about naming or blaming. Again, it's just about giving yourself permission, grace, and understanding. I think so many of us just meet ourselves and we ruminate. We stay stuck in shame. I can't believe I let my house get this bad. I can't believe I can't figure this out. And again, going back to even using that 4S, it gets you out of rumination and into activation. This is like how we bypass procrastination and all these things. The second pillar of your stuff story is your own personal lived experiences. The running shoes you bought when you were hoping to train for a marathon, the clothes from your old career when you worked in corporate, like all of these things can be tough to let go of because of your own experiences. Maybe you had job loss, financial insecurity. Of course, you're going to cling to things a little differently. And then the third, again, we already talked about this. Culture has plays such a doozy. We've been told our whole lives that more equals better. Full calendar, full closet, full life. And it's like, culture, what's the flip side of that coin, right, Aaron? It's that empty is lacking. Empty is you're not doing enough. You're sitting down and just being in your body. No, nope. Add something to your to-do list. It feels unsafe for us. It feels uncomfortable for us to create that space. And I think it's these three forces that really kind of weave into this fabrication again of that programming. And that's what can keep us stuck in clutter. And that's what comes up when we start going into the deeper layers of clutter. And then we can choose, is this story how I feel? Do I actually feel this way? Or we can meet it with a 4S. Of course I struggle to let go. It's a life skill. No one modeled for me how to let go. My parents never got rid of anything, and that's okay. They did the best they could, and here's what I can do moving forward.
I love that. Such a good reminder. And yes, when I saw that, I kind of swung the opposite, right?
Yes.
Same. I'm 42, and so I had grandparents that were in the Great Depression and we were cleaning out their house, right? My grandma still has a full set of closets, right? And I'm like, "Oh, I don't want all that." And I kind of almost swing. And it wasn't until you said that in the book that I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is my stuff story." And it's a result of my own upbringing, then like my own experiences, and like you said, culture. Such good wisdom that's going to help us get to that root of why we have the clutter that we have. Okay, this was also almost freeing to me as a mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you say in the book, mess is expected, clutter is optional, but neither says anything about your worth. And I thought that quote was so important to share with my audience. What's the difference between mess and clutter, and how does knowing the distinction help busy women give themselves grace, which we're not good at?
Yeah, we're getting better though, aren't we?
Yes.
Day by day. I feel so many of us are kind of inadvertently wronged and being sold this idea that if your house isn't spotless all the time, and this is for generations through culture, magazines, Instagram, now it's TikTok, whatever the platform is. And it's like if your home isn't tidy 24/7, we like assign moral failure to that. I stink at this. I'm a horrible wife. I'll never be good at this. I'll just be disorganized. And again, when we sit in shame, hope and action don't feel possible. We ruminate, right? And I think too, go on any Instagram or Pinterest stuff or HGTV. You see this before and after, and we kind of are set the standard. It's like it's supposed to stay that way forever, and when it doesn't, I stink again. Going back into the shame, and what I really recognize, and I'm so grateful for this. This is one of the first things I truly needed to declutter from my mind, was that homes are meant to get messy, and no matter how little or how much you have, mess and clutter are not the same thing. So I then turned it into it's expected. And I think expected mess helps our brains understand that the mess we experience from living a normal human life, we cook dinner. Guess what? The kitchen's dirty. The kids came home from school. Kind of a little tornado, but it's expected mess, right? The backpacks are on the floor. Annoying, but it's expected mess. We know what to do with it, right? And to be able to identify it's expected helped put my brain at ease and not feel like a failure. So I literally had to be like, don't panic, Katy. This is expected. We'll reset it. It'll be okay. Clutter is optional. Clutter is truly the stuff that is burdening us, that is holding us back, the broken, the excess, the four clutter types, we'll probably talk about today. And it's the stuff that's truly the enemy. But we're taught that all mess and clutter are the enemy. And, to take this one step further, which I think was also a beautiful aha for me, is think about all the things we crave. And it makes me tear up. I remember being so burdened by my clutter, and I just wanted to be that yes mom. And I wanted to play with my kids, and I wanted to do finger painting or carve pumpkins and do all these things. And think about all the things that we crave. A lot of those create messes. I wanted to be able to sit down and eat with my family and not have this to-do list in the back of my head. I wanted to talk and hang out and like whatever. All the things we crave, I think so many of them, imagination. I want to create more. I want to do things that I love to do more. I want to connect, be present, be whole. A lot of those create messes. And it's like, we don't need to be fearful of those. Yes, don't get me wrong. They still annoy me sometimes. But I think if we expect it to happen, it lowers the shame. It lowers that kind of noise in our head, the mental clutter, and then also allows us to focus on the true enemy, which is clutter. Clutter is chaos. Our brains are wired to crave peace and order, and clutter is the opposite of that. So I think it freed me up from assigning moral failure to the expected mess, because it's like you clear the countertops, 20 minutes later, it's back. And being okay, brain, we've got this. We know what to do. But those piles over there that have been there for 6 months, that's what we got to work on. And when you separate the two, again, you give yourself grace for the mess. It's everyone's reality. Dishes in the sink, toys on the floor that were just played with, and focusing on the energy is where you're focusing on the clutter is where your energy could then go.
Such a good reminder. And as you're talking, I think so much of your book is not only about decluttering things externally, but as you're doing this deep work, you're really decluttering some of these mindset things that we're thinking about, right? As you were talking, I'm like, man, we are so hard on ourselves and the
We
things
are.
that we think. And so being able to bring those thoughts to the forefront and say, is this truth? Is this the reality? And like you said, expecting the mess feels different. I don't know. Like, it's like,
Yes.
of course, but it's always unexpected. Like, oh, wow, I don't know, right? Like,
Yes.
there is a difference in your mind. I'm sure everyone driving around is like, yes, there is a difference. Okay, so you write that letting go is a skill and not a personality trait.
Yeah.
I hear this all the time from people, right? Like, I'm a type B mom or I'm a type A mom. I'm a planner. I'm not a planner. And I love that you say letting go is a skill, not a personality trait. So, talk to us about what that
Mhm.
means and what hope that can give someone that may be struggling with clutter.
I'm just thinking about because I hear similar things like I'm type A, I'm type B, or I'm this. And here's what I learned. I don't think James Clear coined this, but he's talked about this in the past, probably in Atomic Habits, is that identity drives behavior. So I kind of want to offer this 30,000 foot view as I answer this question is if you are someone who's like, I'm just disorganized. I'm just a hoarder. I just love stuff too much. I'm too sentimental. Well, identity drives behavior. You are going to do things that a hoarder would do, that a disorganized person would do. And I know it sounds woo woo. I know it sounds kind of froofy, but truly, I think just you have the power to give yourself not only a different identity, but also to take action no matter what your personality trait is when it comes to this learned skill. I used to think, wow, I wasn't born organized. I paid my sister as a child, she's 6 years older, to clean my room because I was like, well, this seems like a good idea. I don't have to do it. And whatever, like I wasn't born organized. I know some people are it's more intuitive for people. Same with letting go, also part of your stuff story. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. And we don't, yes, it's helpful to listen to the podcast, read the books, but it has to come through implementation and action. And here's what's so cool. When you start taking action, when you let go of one thing today, when you set a timer for 5 minutes, and you do these tiny tweaks you talk about, right? All these they add up. And why does that matter? It's not just to create momentum. It's not just to create progress and feel better. Every time you do that, that reinforces the identity of who you are or who you're becoming. So for me, our community, we are simplifiers. Maybe for you, it's a minimalist. Maybe for you, it's just an organized mom. Fine. Like drop the, like, I'm a hot mess. Like seriously, if that could really be like an undercurrent that's keeping you stuck from that identity perspective. And again, just like I don't expect to walk into the gym for the first time in my life and be able to bench press 50 pounds. Why are you tackling sentimental stuff first? Yes, I know it's a glaring issue. You might have a garage filled. It's a pain point. It's annoying. You got to start with the easier stuff. You can't bench press 50 pounds if you've never just bench pressed 10. So make it easy for yourself to do this and don't start with the more emotionally loaded stuff.
So funny. Immediately as you were talking, one of our kiddos kind of struggled a little bit more with some bad behavior. And so the thought came to mind that we would start speaking affirmations together on the way to school. Like, I am a responsible student. I can
Yes.
understand. I can keep my mouth quiet. Katie, I tell you, I did this and I did not. I was like, this is kind of woo-woo. I don't know. It has made all the difference in helping that child realize who they truly are. And then,
Yes.
we affirm them and all of that stuff. But it has changed my perspective on how we speak about ourselves to ourselves
Yes.
repeatedly. And so
Yes.
as you were speaking, I'm like, I am a declutterer. I can
Yes.
let go. I am organized, right? And then, as you said, those actions are evidence to that belief. And the more that we
Yes.
do it, we become that person. So, just a real life example from a
I love
child, but
that.
it has made all the difference in what we speak about ourselves.
Yeah.
Truly, uh, I see that playing out in real life.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I think a lot of us expect it. I remember thinking, oh my gosh, do I need like a 40-page PDF checklist and systems? And I'm like, ugh. I think it's got to be this big revolutionary thing, but it's not. It's these small steps, tiny tweaks, and trying things out, testing things out, and they all compound and they all continue to accumulate, compound, and give you a return on your investment.
I love that. Okay, so we're going to wrap up before the rapid fire, the questions I ask everyone. You touched on this, but I thought this was important in the book too. You cover that there's different types of clutter, and it's important to know what kind, and we won't steal all of the thunder of the book, but it's important to know what kind it is because the way you handle it is different. So, can you just touch on what the four types of clutter are so people can kind
Yep.
of start to wrap their mind around it?
Yeah, so look at clutter like an onion. So if you've ever cooked or even just seen an onion in the grocery store, you know that you don't need a knife to get through that outer layer. You don't need a tool, you don't need a strategy. You can literally just touch it and it like crumbles away. So the outer layer of clutter, the easiest one to start with, tackle first, is very similar. It's superficial clutter. There's no emotion attached. It's just accumulated because life got busy. Duplicates, expired products, junk drawer chaos, stuff that, like, again, it's not like, do I need this? There's no mental mental negotiation yo-yo happening. This comes off fast with a little time and intention. This is why people feel really good after like doing a trash bag challenge or like typically what they tackle when they declutter. Of course, you start with the easy stuff, but if you only focus on superficial clutter, which in most homes I found is only 10 to 20% of the cumulative clutter, then again, it's like no wonder it feels like your house fills up by Tuesday next week. So a layer deeper scarcity, you can use the 4S framework, but this is the just in case stuff. I'll hold on it just in case. It's rooted in fear and scarcity, right? It's not having enough. What if I can't get that in the future? All those different things. So again, having different tools in your tool belt is really important here. Just like you don't build a home with just a nail and a hammer, you need different tools for the different jobs, drywalling and putting up a roof and installing windows. This is what I want people to think about when they're decluttering. It's like, okay, it's not just one question that, use different tools that you have. The next layer deep in the clutter onion, sentimental. Again, a lot of people are good at self-identifying. It's tied to people, memories. It's emotional. The wedding dress, the baby shoes, grandma's china. And then identity clutter for me was probably the most transformational to give a name to and also to address, because identity clutter is tied to who you used to be, who you think you should be, who others want you to be. And it goes deep, right? And again, it's just being able to flash a light on some of these beliefs. Like, I'll give you an example. In the book, I talk about buying marathon shoes and bought those before I had kids. And I was like, I'm going to run a marathon. I'm going to run a marathon. And I had kids, didn't run a marathon. And every time I walked into my closet, those shoes were just like bullying me. You're not going to do this. You stink. You failed. You said you'd follow through, but you didn't. So we have these opportunities where, again, on paper, had I just said, is this useful? Or could this come in handy? Or just kind of basic questions that don't get us far. I was like, what story am I telling myself about these shoes? Right. And here's where identity clutter is tricky and why it's harder for most people to let go of with the wrong tools or no tools at all. It feels like the death of a dream, or it feels like the death of a season. So in my head, literally within seconds, what story have I attached to these shoes? Well, these were my marathon shoes. I was supposed to be fit. I was supposed to be running a marathon. I pictured myself crossing that finish line. I've let myself down. I'm just a failure. What's the point, right? Speaking to giving ourselves grace, I'm my own worst enemy. And I said, is that true? Does letting go of these shoes really feel like does that mean I'm never going to run a marathon again? So again, I'm having this conversation inside my head. I'm like, oh, of course not. It's like that angel. It's like Tweety Bird, the like, remember on the shoulders? Yep. It's literally what it's like sometimes through this process. And I was like, that's not true. I could always go out and buy new shoes. In this case, I was like, instead of donating them and liberating myself from that bullying they've been doing for the many years, I'm going to turn these into my daily mom drivers. So like, I can literally just walk in these. This is a classic example of the meaning we assign stuff and why it matters and getting to the root cause. And so then I started wearing them every day. They were adding value to my life. They quit giving me mental clutter and mental noise and making me feel bad about myself. And that literally happened all between my ears. It didn't come from a checklist. It didn't come from whatever, a rule. It just came from just a little curiosity, grace, permission, and challenging. Is this the story that's true? Is it the story I want to live on? If not, you have the power to write a new chapter for yourself.
So good. So good. Okay. I ask this question to everyone that is on, but what's a tiny joy that you've enjoyed lately?
So for the holidays this year, we gifted our boys, they're now 9 and 10, their first kind of big ski trip. We live out east in Asheville, North Carolina. There's very small mountains here. So they went to Colorado. And I think just hearing them process, so they just got back, process their experience and watching them just actively choose experiences over stuff. And like, it makes me like cry. It's like, I think there's so many moments in parenting where you're like, am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? I don't know. Like, Lord, help me. Yeah. And then it's like, are they understanding? Are they going to keep these core values and adopt them? And, just seeing them enjoy that time and get home. And even my oldest was like, yeah, I'm so glad we didn't do gifts, like physical stuff this year. It's just, I have memories for a lifetime. And it was one of those moments where I was like, as a parent, I'm like, it's working. And it just brought me so much I guess, big joy, not tiny joy, but it was just one of those special moments.
I love that. Okay, Katie, I want to know where they can find the book. We're going to put it in the show notes, where they can find you. You have a very popular podcast, so give them all of the details because I'm sure they're rushing to their phone right now to hit follow.
I love it. Follow me on Instagram, Katy Joy Wells, under my full name. I have episodes out every Wednesday on the Maximized Minimalist, just behind the scenes, real conversations, lots of tears, lots of squealing of joy, like all the feelings. And you can grab my new book. If traditional decluttering advice has left you stuck in shame or just frustration, or maybe you're just someone who loves this stuff, loves to organize and loves to optimize and just wants some new tools to add to your tool belt for simplifying your home and life, you can grab my book, Making Home Your Happy Place, a real life guide to decluttering without the overwhelm.
And it's out today, so go grab it.
Yes.
Truly, I think the tweak we can all take away today is the next time you walk into a closet or grab an item, just be curious. What is
Yes.
this? What is the story it's telling you? And is that true? I think that will serve
Yeah.
us very well as we go forward. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, you don't have to overhaul your life to love it when one tiny tweak will do. If you liked this episode, it would mean so much if you'd share it with a friend or leave a quick rating and review so others can find our show. Until next time, you can find me at Simple Purposeful Living on Instagram and Facebook.